All right, hi everybody. Last time you watched part of this series, I left off at part 8 and how I started using cheat meals in 2011. So let's see where everything went from there. All right, so hi everybody, John Meadows here. And if you've been watching my series, we are now up to part 9. And it's been a while since we've done one of these. And at the last part, I remember telling you that I started using cheat meals strategically in 2011. And everything went really well. I was back up to 208, 209. Things were going really well. So that's where we left off. I just done a North American. So I was very, very excited at that point. I felt like I was making good progress and getting over all those surgeries I had. So, and I had also started writing a lot for T-Nation. Those of you who are not familiar with T-Nation, a very big website with a lot of information. So I started writing for those guys and I started getting involved in a lot of projects. The projects involved supplements and how to use them to your best ability. Now, the other thing was I really hadn't grown a lot. I mean, part of that was due to my sickness, but the other part, the reality was I was just stuck. I just couldn't figure out how to put on a lot more muscle. So I did a lot of thinking, enlisted the aid of some very smart people, and we try to figure out, okay, let's try to think of all the variables that you can manipulate to start growing again. And one of them we thought about was intensity. But I will tell you, I was training incredibly hard back then. Lots of drop sets, lots of just incredibly painful stuff. For those of you who followed all the Elite FTS videos I did with Dave Tate, we were killing each other. So I don't think that was the answer. Then the other answer was, well, how about more volume? And we were already doing very long workouts, many times 2 hours, sometimes even longer. So I didn't really think that making the workouts would be of any benefit either. So I didn't think the answer was training any harder or training any longer. Nutrition, was I eating enough? Of course I was. I was in the caloric surplus, trying to gain muscle, but it was minuscule, the amount of muscle I was gaining. So I didn't think it was anything that was being done nutritionally. So the only answer I had left, the only variable was frequency. At the time, all the way up until that time, I had used a bro split, as they call it, training a body part 1 time a week. That's what I learned in all the magazines growing up, so that I didn't know any better. And back then, that's what we all did. Like high frequency did not exist in bodybuilding. It was in a little bit in powerlifting, and it was a lot in Olympic weightlifting, but there really wasn't any higher frequency models in bodybuilding. Very, very few people did that. I think Ronnie Coleman actually was one of the first ones that came along and started crushing body parts twice a week, because we were just like, how is he recovering from that? So anyways, so I had to figure out how to recover. And this is something that was, a lot of people use the word game changer a lot, and I don't like it because I think it's a complete over-exaggeration 99.9% of the time. But this is when I did have a game changer outcome from something that I did. And this is when we started using intra-workout strategies with highly digestible proteins. At the time we were using casein hydrolysate, and then also carbohydrates, we were using cluster dextrin. So we started combining those together. Those didn't require any digestion, and they really helped recovery. We got to the point where we didn't even get sore anymore. So that allowed me to train with more frequency. So I started stimulating the muscle twice a week instead of once a week. It led to very, very good progress. And I went to the North American. I just turned 40 years old. And this was really cool because at 40 years old, the other time I would say I made the best gains was in 1999. And if you remember me telling you guys, I went to the Nationals in 98 in November, and I got demolished in the light heavyweight class. I won 96, didn't make top 15. And then in 1999, in July, I did the USA as a heavyweight at 207, and I actually got 4th, and I was very, very lean. So that was the biggest jump I had at once. Well, this one, when I turned 40, was the second biggest jump. And it wasn't because of any special drug or anything like that, it was just purely mastering the art of recovery. allowing the muscle to be stimulated more often. And it was crazy at that point because I was a big believer in the sore you got, the better the workout was. So it was a mind, you know what, to me. I'm like, well, am I even training hard enough now because I'm not getting sore? But anyways, I just kept growing and kept growing. And I went to the North American in 2012. I had just turned 40. Actually, it was Masters Nationals, not North American. I go to the Masters Nationals. I weigh in at 219. I was like 219, 220, and I weighed in, and a guy who I've known for many, many years, who's a chairman, was there, and he's like, wow, I've never seen you look like this. This is just a completely different look for you. And I was like, well, is that good or bad? And he said, it's good. Like, now you have that three-dimensional look. It's not the flat, ripped look. It's actually the full and ripped look. So I did the Masters Nationals. I took a controversial second place, but it was a great feeling. I mean, that pro card was right there now. And I lost to a friend of mine named Dennis Hobson. And but that jump I made was incredible. And that really began my love for intra-workout nutrition. And I applied it with a lot of people. It worked awesome for them. We've used different sources over the years. And now I actually use this here, Recovery Factor. It's essential aminos and cluster dextrin and electrolytes. But that was one of the biggest game changers in my bodybuilding history. It was the ability to recover. And I talk about this a lot at seminars. So this was a really cool experience. I did the North American, got second place. I got a lot of press. I got a lot of notoriety. I had magazines reaching out to me for articles. It was a really good experience. And not only that, all those years of the 6th, the 8th place, sometimes 10, 12, where you're not quite in the mix. Well, I was truly back in the mix. So I felt really good, like, man, now I actually have a shot at a pro card. So 2012 was a fantastic year. My kids at that point were now 4 years old. When I was on stage, they actually took off running to the stage, and my wife had to grab them before they ran up on stage when I was out there. It's kind of funny. I could actually see it when I was posing. So just a really good experience. So what happened after that? Well, that's when I started writing a lot more programs. So for those of you who, I started writing programs a year or two before that, but that's when I really started getting excited about my programming, because I knew that what I had done would transfer over well to a lot of people, especially the natural guys, because those are the guys that don't have the advantage that the guys using PEDs have. So I knew that this would be a real game changer for those guys, that recovery piece. So that's what happened in 2012. That was one of the most important years for me in terms of learning. I learned more about my body and how the body needs to recover that year than probably the previous 10 years combined. That was a monumental effort, or a monumental year for me. So I wanted to share that with you. So from there, I'm going to cut it short, and we're going to do part 10 coming up. But you can see now I'm right on the grasp of getting that pro card, so it must have came at the next show, all right? Well, stay tuned and you'll find out.